When dealing with the trig inverse, it's important to remember what the range is of that inverse. So for instance, here on part C, the cosine inverse only has a range in the first and second quadrant. It can only return first and second quadrant values. Keeping that in mind, we can evaluate sine of 7 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6 can itself be found in the third quadrant and has a y value of negative 1/2, and thus sine of 7 pi over 6 is negative 1/2. Making that substitution, we find that cosine inverse of negative 1/2 can be found when we plot an x value of negative 1/2, because it's a cosine. The angle that corresponds to that in the second quadrant, because again, remember, we can only use first or second quadrant values, is going to be 2 pi over 3. That tells us that cosine inverse of sine of 7 pi over 6 is equal to 2 pi over 3. Oops, 2 pi over 3.